After my divorce, I thought the hardest sentence I'd ever hear had already been signed in a lawyer's office. But then my best friend's mom looked at me, smiled the way only a mother smiles when she's already figured out what you've spent years hiding from yourself, and said, "So she's why you won't date, isn't she?" I was standing on her half-finished back deck with a framing nail between my teeth and a glass of sweet tea I hadn't asked for. And from inside the kitchen I could hear my best friend laughing on the phone with another man. My name is Wesley Bramwell. I'm 36. After the divorce that quietly ended 7 years of marriage, the only person who didn't treat me like something broken was Harlow Keene, my best friend of 11 years, the woman who showed up at my door the night my wife left with a frozen pizza and a deck of cards and never once asked me to explain. Her mother, Mary Beth, had fed me at her Sunday table for a decade, prayed over me out loud whether I asked her to or not, and buried her own husband 4 years ago without losing the soft, dangerous way she had of saying the truth before anyone else was brave enough to. I had told myself after the divorce that I wasn't dating because I wasn't ready. I had told Harlow's aunt the same thing 4 times that afternoon. I had almost convinced myself it was true. But Mary Beth Keene didn't believe me, but she had been watching me turn down every woman thrown my way. But she had been watching me show up at her house weekend after weekend for a deck that didn't need rebuilding that fast. But she had just watched me flinch when her daughter's phone rang in the next room. I tried to laugh. It came out wrong. I took the framing nail out of my mouth, set it on the sawhorse, and pretended to measure a board I had already measured twice. "Mary Beth," I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do, sweetheart." She didn't say it cruel. She said it the way a woman says a thing she's known for a very long time and has finally decided is too heavy to keep carrying alone. The September air smelled like cut cedar and the faint smoke of someone burning leaves 2 yards over. A jay was screaming at a squirrel in the dogwood tree behind her. Somewhere inside the kitchen, Harlow's laugh broke open again, and I felt my chest do that thing it had been doing all afternoon. Tighten. Release. Tighten again. Mary Beth set her glass of sweet tea down on the railing I had just sanded that morning. She put her hand flat on the wood the way a person tests whether something will hold their weight. "Coralie asked you 4 times today if you were ready to meet her hairdresser," she said, "and 4 times you smiled at her like a man holding a wound shut. Why is that, Wesley?" "Because I'm not ready." I'm not." "Mary Beth, please." She looked at me then. Just looked. 64 years old, silver in her hair where it used to be brown, her husband Earl 4 years gone, and still wearing his thin gold band on a chain around her neck because she said her finger felt naked without something of his on her. Her eyes were the same eyes Harlow had. That was the cruelest part. I'd been looking into a softer version of those eyes for 11 years and pretending I didn't notice what they did to me. "Wesley," she said quietly, "I buried my husband on a Tuesday. Do you know what I learned standing over that hole in the ground?" I shook my head. "I learned that not yet is a thief. It steals more than people think. And I have watched you say not yet to your own life for 18 months, and I am telling you right now, as somebody who loves you, I am out of patience for slow." Inside the house, Harlow laughed again. Then softer, I heard her say, "Friday works." "Yeah, pick me up at 7. The board in my hand suddenly weighed too much. Mary Beth saw my face. She saw all of it. "Oh, honey," she whispered, "she's going to dinner with that dentist on Friday, and you're going to stand on my deck and pretend you don't care." I didn't answer her. I couldn't. I picked up the framing nail again and tried to put it back in my mouth, but my hands had gone strange on me. The board I'd cut perfectly straight that morning suddenly looked crooked. Everything looked crooked. "Wesley." Mary Beth's voice was softer now. "Sit down. I'm fine. Sit down, son." That word. Son. She'd been calling me that for 10 years, and it still undid me every time. I lowered myself onto the sawhorse. The cedar smelled sweet and sharp under my hands. From inside, I heard the screen door close. Harlow had taken her call to the front porch. Mary Beth waited until the sound of her daughter's voice faded into the hum of the late September yard. "Tell me about the night Trinity left." "Mary Beth." "Tell me." I closed my eyes, and just like that, I was back on the concrete floor of my garage. 18 months ago, a bottle of bourbon Trinity had bought me for our anniversary, sitting unopened between my boots. Her car had pulled out of the driveway at 9:47 p.m. I remember because I kept staring at the clock on the microwave through the open door, watching the minutes pile up like something I was supposed to do something about. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I sat there listening to the refrigerator hum in a house that suddenly belonged to nobody. And then headlights swept across the garage door at 11. Harlow. She walked in carrying a frozen pepperoni pizza in one hand and a deck of cards in the other. She didn't say I'm sorry. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask one single question about Trinity. She just looked at me on that concrete floor and said, "Get up, Wesley. Your oven's been off for 4 hours and that's a felony in this state." I laughed. God help me, I laughed. The first laugh I'd had in weeks. She made me eat 2 slices standing up at the counter. Then she sat me down at the kitchen table and dealt gin rummy until 3 in the morning. She beat me 11 hands to 2. She let me lose without making me talk. And when I finally cried at 2 a.m., quiet, the kind of crying a grown man does when he's too tired to be ashamed of it, she put her hand over mine on the table and said the words I have heard every single night since. "You're going to be okay, Wesley, I promise. I'm not going anywhere." She slept on my couch so I wouldn't wake up alone. I opened my eyes. Mary Beth was still watching me, patient as weather. "That's the night I knew," I said. "Knew what, sweetheart?" "That I married the wrong woman." The words came out of me like something I had been holding underwater for 11 years. Mary Beth didn't flinch. She didn't gasp. She nodded, very slowly, the way a person nods when somebody finally says out loud what she has known for longer than they have. "Wesley," she said. "How long?" "Mary Beth, please." "How long?" I stared at the deck boards under my boots. "I was 25, I whispered. We were 25. It was a Tuesday in October. We failed our Spanish midterm and we went to a Waffle House at midnight, and Harlow ordered hash browns, scattered, smothered, and covered, and she laughed at something I said, and I almost told her. I had the words right there in my mouth. "But you didn't." "No, ma'am." "Why?" "Because 3 weeks earlier I had started seeing Trinity, and Trinity was easier. Trinity didn't already know every embarrassing thing about me. She was a clean page. I was 25 and I was scared, and I told myself Harlow and I were better as friends, and I asked Trinity to marry me 18 months later. The cedar smelled too sweet now. The jay had stopped screaming. The whole yard had gone still, like even the wind wanted to hear the rest. "I have loved your daughter for 11 years, Mary Beth. I loved her through my engagement. I loved her through my wedding. I loved her through every Sunday dinner you fed me at that table. I loved her the night Trinity left, and I have loved her every single day since. And I have never said it out loud until right now." Mary Beth's eyes filled. She did not let the tears fall. She reached out and put her hand flat on my cheek the way a mother does when her son has finally come home from somewhere far. "Oh, Wesley," she whispered, "you poor stubborn boy. Do you know what you just did?" "What?" "You just told me, and I am the wrong woman." She held my eyes for a long second. "You have until Friday at 7 o'clock to tell the right." 1. Behind me, the screen door opened. I felt the air change before I heard her voice. "Mom?" Harlow said. "What's going on out here?" Mary Beth's hand dropped from my cheek. She did not turn around. She kept her eyes on me, and in that one held breath, I understood that whatever I did next was going to decide the rest of my life. Mary Beth turned then, calm as Sunday morning. "Mama needs more lemons from inside, sweetheart. I'll be right back." She didn't look at me as she passed, but her hand brushed my shoulder once, quick, hard, like a coach sending a player onto the field. The screen door whispered shut behind her, and then it was just me and Harlow on the half-finished deck. She tilted her head. "Wes, what did she say to you?" "Nothing." "Wesley." The way she said my full name, soft, worried, like she already knew. "Harlow." My voice cracked on her name. "What time is Grant picking you up Friday?" She blinked. 7. "Why?" "Don't go." The jay started screaming again somewhere in the dogwood. Harlow's face did something I will remember every day for the rest of my life. It went still. Then it went pale. Then her hand came up to her mouth like she was trying to keep words from falling out of it. "Wesley Bramwell," she whispered, "you cannot stand on my mother's deck and ask me to cancel a date without... I love you." She stopped breathing. I watched it happen. The way her chest just stopped moving. "I have loved you since we were 25 years old. I almost told you at a Waffle House the night we failed Spanish, and I lost my nerve, and I married a woman who was easier because I was scared, and I have paid for that every single day for 11 years. The night Trinity left, you showed up at my door with a frozen pizza, and you saved my life, and I knew right then that I had married the wrong woman. But I didn't say anything, because you were the only person I had left, and I was terrified that if I told you, I would lose you too." The tea glass on the railing was sweating in the September sun. Her eyes had filled. "I'm telling you now, Harlow, I don't want to be careful anymore. I don't want to be the man who lets you walk out that door on Friday and spends the rest of his life wondering. So if there is any part of you that has ever, even once, looked at me the way I look at you, then please, please don't go to dinner with that dentist." She didn't speak for a long moment. Then she laughed, not a hurt laugh, a wet, broken, finally home kind of laugh. "Wesley," she whispered, "I have loved you since the night you proposed to Trinity. I sat in my car in the parking lot of that restaurant, and I cried for an hour, and then I drove home, and I told myself I would be the best friend you ever had because I could not be anything else. I have loved you through every Sunday dinner. I have loved you through your wedding. I have loved you through your divorce. And I was going to marry that dentist if he asked me. Wes. Not because I loved him, but because I was tired. I was so tired of waiting for you to see me. I crossed the deck in 3 steps. I cupped her face in my hands, sawdust on my fingers, sweet tea on her breath, 11 years of almost finally collapsing into one held second. I see you, Harlow. I have always seen you. I just got brave. And then I kissed her, not desperate, not the way movie kisses look, the way a man kisses a woman he has loved through one bad marriage and one very long silence. Slow, sure, the way you kiss someone when you are finally telling the truth. From inside the house, the screen door creaked open about 2 inches. Mary Beth's voice floated through. "I was watering the basil." Harlow laughed against my mouth. "Mama, the basil is plastic." Then I was appreciating it. We stood there on her mother's half-finished deck and laughed until we cried. Harlow canceled the date with Grant that night. She told him the truth, kindly, the way she does everything. He was, by all accounts, a decent man. I hope he found someone who loved him the way Harlow had loved me for 11 years from across a parking lot. We dated for 14 months. I finished the deck. Then I rebuilt her front steps. Then I rebuilt the gazebo her father had started before he passed. Mary Beth said I was running out of structures to fix, and I told her that was the point. I was building a life I could finally stand on. I proposed on that finished deck on a September evening exactly 2 years after the day she had told me I had until Friday at 7. I got down on one knee and Harlow cried, and from inside the kitchen window, Mary Beth called out, "I am admiring the finished deck this time, Wesley Bramwell, and I take full credit." We got married the next June. Mary Beth stood up at the reception, lifted a glass of champagne and said, "Some men need a little nudge. My son-in-law needed a deck, a deadline, and a dentist. The whole room laughed. I looked across the table at my wife, and I thought about the boy I used to be at 25, sitting in a Waffle House, swallowing the words, choosing the safer woman because the right one felt too big. I wanted to reach back through time and shake him. But maybe that boy had to learn the long way. Maybe some loves only become brave after they have been broken first. People still ask me how I knew. I tell them I knew the night Trinity left, when a woman walked into my garage with a frozen pizza and didn't ask me a single question. Harlow says she knew the night I proposed to Trinity, sitting alone in a parking lot, deciding to love me anyway. Mary Beth says she knew before either of us, and she has the witnesses to prove it. So let me ask you this. Have you ever loved someone for years and been too afraid to say it out loud until the moment came when you almost lost them for good? And has there ever been someone in your life, a mother, a friend, a stranger, who saw the truth between two people before they were brave enough to admit it themselves? Tell me your story down in the comments. I read every single one of them. And if this story moved you tonight, if you felt something in your chest you weren't expecting, do me one small favor. Hit that subscribe button, tap the like, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss what comes next. There's another true-to-life love story coming your way next week, and I promise you, you're going to feel this one too. I'll see you there.